Hi guys, Lindsay here with Storybrooke Family Farm. Today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the different terminology used in talking about tomatoes. Um, a lot of people, they have heard about indeterminate, determinate, heirloom, hybrid, and are not really sure what any of it means. Different people, will talk about, oh, heirloom's the way to go, or oh, hybrid's the way to go, or I only grow this, or I only grow that. But does the normal person actually know what that means? Because I had to look it up a couple years ago. I was like, I don't understand what the difference between these two tomatoes are. And one said it was a hybrid, one said it was an heirloom, one said it was an indeterminate, the other one said it was determinate. And I was like, well, I should grow something that says determinate because that means it's determined to grow. Like that's literally like where I started at with this whole gardening journey and farming and all that stuff. Like I didn't know anything, so I pretty much just had to dive deep into researching everything. Like yeah, I come from a family lineage that farmed, but when you think back to it, just go back a couple hundred years and everybody farmed. So everybody comes from farmers. I mean, unless if you're royalty and you've been in the royal family for forever, chances are you came from a heritage of people that farmed. Your ancestors did, at least on some capacity, they had to. Anybody that survived through the Great Depression pretty much kind of had to do some sort of homesteading activities. But, anyways, that's a whole other topic for a whole other day. So, what I wanted to do was briefly explain what all the terminology was. So, think of dogs. Okay, you got purebred dogs and you got mutts. The purebred dogs tend to have more health problems. Like certain dog breeds have certain problems. They, like think of pugs. I have a pug, so I know a lot about pugs. I really like to research. But they have a tendency to have issues with their noses and with snoring and vomiting and, all that stuff. Kind of gross, kind of cute. But if you mix a pug with, say, a rat terrier, which mine is a pug rat terrier mix, she does not have as bad of issues with vomiting, snoring, having issues with her nose getting stuffed up, or anything of the sort because she's got an elongated snout because she's a mutt. So she's better designed for the world that we live in, and not getting, stuff stuck up her nose. Whereas I have a pug mixed with a chihuahua that it's a million times worse. She gets all sorts of stuff stuck up her nose and just sneezes all the time, and it's frustrating. So sometimes a mutt has different genetic qualities that help it. So with tomatoes, a hybrid is essentially a mutt. It is two or sometimes even three or four different types of tomatoes combined into one plant. So it's, different ancestors linked up together of the tomato plants to create essentially like a new mixed breed type of thing. That hybrid tomato, it will never grow true to seed because, well, it had like four different grandparents all put together to create its parents, and then those parents created it. It's kind of like if you're not a purebred German, you're never gonna make a purebred German. It's, the same thing. I have like a gazillion different lineage lines, and German's one of my strongest things, but I'm nowhere near pure. But so it's starting to sprinkle a little bit. Anyways, so what an heirloom is essentially a purebred dog. It is something that is 100% pure lines, and it has never been tampered with, never been altered, and it has lineages that have been traced back for 50 to 100 years or even more. That it is the exact same plant, never been crossbred, never nothing. Those tomato plants you can save seed from if you don't have any other tomatoes close by, and they will grow true to seed year after year after year after year after year. It's just like purebred dogs. I'm gonna sit back down. Apparently, it's not gonna start raining. Thankfully, it's been raining the last like 5 days, and it's supposed to rain still the next couple days, and it's just been terrible weather. I was gonna shoot this inside, but the lighting was it's so gloomy out that it looked terrible. But anyways, think back to the purebred dog analogy. If you had two pugs, a male and a female, and you bred them together, they were purebred pugs, all of their puppies would all be purebred puppies. You could have papers, you could trace them, you could, whatever the fancy dog breeders do, you could do those things. The tomatoes are the same way. If they're an heirloom plant, they will continue to make more heirlooms. The tomato plant does not need other tomato plants around to pollinate it. So basically it just does its own thing with itself and creates new offspring, which is the fruit that we eat. Sorry, vegans, but yeah, Tomatoes are the babies of a tomato plant. That's what all vegetables and fruits are. So the whole not eating something with a mother thing, plants are the mother of the fruit that we eat. Um, but like I said, another story for another day. Um, so if you're concerned about what is an heirloom, what is a hybrid, think back to the whole dog thing. Purebred dog, heirloom tomato. A mutt is a hybrid tomato. The other things, the other terminology that you'll see whenever you look at the little tag thingies that that you get from the greenhouses that tell you what the tomato is, what it looks like, and all that stuff. The other thing that you'll see is determinate and indeterminate. What a determinate tomato is for people that like to do canning or like to have all of their harvest pretty much all within just a 2-week time period. So a Roma tomato is a determinate tomato. It will grow to a certain height, and then once it reaches that height, it'll set out a bunch of flowers. It'll then make a bunch of tomatoes, and once those tomatoes are all ripe, it's pretty much done for the season. So if you had a short growing season and stuff, you could do that, and you'd get an insured harvest and just done and stuff. And then you could also transition the spot where that was growing to grow something else at the end of the tomatoes growing season. Now, an indeterminate tomato, a lot of cherry tomatoes and a lot of heirloom tomatoes are indeterminates. What that means is the tomato plant does not say, okay, I'm only going to reach 4 foot tall and that's all I'm going to do. The indeterminate, what it does is it just keeps growing. It grows like a freaking weed. Like you'll have tomato plants that are, they'll just keep vining out and just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they will slowly trickle with blessings of tomatoes all season long. So once they start producing tomatoes, they will continue until there is a hard freeze or a hard frost that kills off the plant. Me personally, I like the indeterminate tomatoes. I don't like to have a massive flooding of tomatoes on my counter all at one time. I would rather have a slow, steady trickle. It's much easier to manage and to handle a slow, steady stream of produce coming in, while you also have other stuff, because I don't just grow tomatoes. I grow peppers and carrots and green beans and peas and pretty much everything. I grow pretty much everything. So all in the same season, I'm having this constant rotation of things piling up. I don't want to have 100-something pounds of tomatoes that need taken care of all in the same day on top of everything else that I have going on. So I like the indeterminates. Where I live in Ohio, we have a somewhat long-ish growing season. We're in zone 6-ish. I say ish because we're like on the cusp of zone 6A and zone 6B. So it's easier to say 6. So we have, I think it's like 150 something or 180 something days of frost-free supposed to be weather. But it doesn't always seem to be the way that it's supposed to be, but it is what it is. So we can grow stuff that requires a longer season. Things like loofah is kind of a stretch for us here because there's not quite enough days to really do a loofah gourd. We've tried, it didn't work, but we're probably gonna try it again at some point. But anyways, so the nice thing about doing the indeterminate tomatoes, it is something that will provide you with a slow, steady stream of tomatoes for a long duration of time. And the plant it'll become a much more vigorous plant. It'll basically just look like it's on all sorts of steroids. It just jacked like nobody's business. I've had cherry tomato plants that were indeterminates that by the time they were done for the season, they were over 15 feet long. And I say long instead of tall because I don't have anything tall enough to try to, tie them up with once they get that high. I kind of let them go up a fence, down a fence, and then try to just keep finding something to just, drape them across because they just keep on growing. But so that is my personal preference on indeterminates. But for people that are growing in containers or that do not have a lot of space, I recommend doing a determinate tomato because of the fact that they don't get anywhere near as large. So they're much easier to control what they do. And then you get all the fruit all at one time. And then you can, once it's pretty much done for the season, the plant will slowly start dying back and you'll still have usually a couple of months till the growing season is over. So you could then rip that tomato plant out and plant something like a cold hardy crop, like anything in the brassica family. So kale, cabbage, kohlrabi, broccoli. You could then replace that with something like that grows fast. So that is my thoughts on the different tomato terminology and what I prefer. We also tend to pretty much only grow heirloom tomatoes, so that way we can save seed, because then next year we don't have to buy plants. We can just, if we liked it, we could save seed from it and then continuously keep regrowing the same varieties without having to spend an astronomical amount of money on seeds. If you're anything like me and my wife are, we absolutely love, love, love to garden and grow food, and we are very big foodies, so we are constantly trying to buy new varieties and try different things, and that can get very expensive when you narrow a seed catalog down to your top 50 things that you want to buy for that year. Seeds are not cheap. So that's the nice thing about heirlooms. But we do grow some hybrid varieties. Just like I said, we're foodies. We want to try everything. So that's it for today. If you guys are enjoying this content, please give this video a thumbs up. If you think you know anybody that might benefit from the knowledge that I shared today, please share this video with them. If you have not already, please subscribe to our channel to help us grow. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.